This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers' proposal to ban the Tush push has failed. 24 teams needed to approve the proposal, but just 22 teams did. The 10 teams that didn't were Philadelphia, which obviously came up with the play and used it more than anyone else, and 9 teams that don't play the Eagles this year. The Packers do play Philly in Week 10 at home. Green Bay had revised a proposal this week to try and get more teams on board, but it ended up not being enough. Packers are in the midst of Phase 2 of their offseason program. Phase 3 starts next week with OTAs. Packers are only holding 6 days of OTAs as opposed to the allowed 10. Coach Matt LaFleur explained the reasoning for that earlier this month.
If you look at where the calendar fell, I mean, you're going into late June, and I think we all know the rigors of an NFL season and how long it is. So you just got to kind of decide in terms of the value from the end of the offseason to the start of training camp, how much time you want to give these guys, and we're going to have plenty of time to be together.
Meanwhile, The Athletic reporting the Packers will hold joint practices with the Colts and Seahawks during training camp and in advance of their preseason games against those teams. Turning to Wisconsin, Badgers announced today that their season opener in 2026 against Notre Dame at Lambeau Field has been moved from Saturday, September 5th to Sunday, September 6th.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home, auto, business, and life insurance? They make it convenient to bundle your insurance while saving you time and money. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers still have not swept a series this season. That's after losing 8-4 to Baltimore in 11 innings earlier today. They'll now hit the road for a 4-game series in Pittsburgh. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
I feel like I'm swinging it good. I mean, the home run swing, kind of just like the whole inning, how that transpired, just the guys before me, allows me to go up there and really look up in the zone and try to hit a fly ball or other at-bats. That's never my intent.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Some sound from last night's Brewers game. I'm kind of throwing the show together on the fly. The Brewers game just ended 25 minutes ago. And as I sit here right now, as the show gets underway, I'm using my laptop on my left to record some sound from Murph after the game. It's playing on the FanDuel channel right now. I have to record it live during the broadcast because God knows they won't post it anywhere. I'm just going to check that box. I complained about that. That's my one that I get today. But it's not all negative with the Brewers last night. Last night was really fun. Or not negative today. Last night was really fun, and they hit some home runs. Sal Frelick, and that's the voice that you heard in the intro, right? Really, because of the circumstances in front of him in that inning, guys getting on and moving over activities on the base paths kind of allowed him to hunt a fly ball and swing a little bit harder, which is great. Brewers need to slug. We've talked about that over and over and over again this season. So they won last night. I have a lot to say about their loss today. I don't think the loss today is a backbreaking end-of-the-world loss. It was actually progress because, as I've talked about over the last few weeks, anytime previously that the Brewers have won 3 in a row and had a chance to sweep and keep it going, they haven't just lost, as you heard in Zach's update. They've yet to sweep an opponent, but they've gotten blown out, and it just feels like all the momentum in their previous winning streaks that have busted has gone completely out the window. All the air has been let out of the balloon. That's the analogy that I've used. And I don't think that happened today, but I do have an axe to grind with Murphy specifically in the way that he's managed this bullpen. And it wasn't even about how he managed it today. It's how he's been managing throughout the week that I think has really hurt the Brewers and hurt them today in a game that was probably decided by their offense anyways. Their offense really, really struggled, and they just can't string enough hits, especially home runs or big hits together. So we're going to talk about that. And I also want to talk about the Packers tonight. Mike Clemens is going to join us at 5:30 to talk about the developments at the league meetings or coaches. I don't know what meetings are going on right now. I didn't know there was a second round of meetings. I thought there were the coaches meeting and the combine. That was kind of it, but there's something going on up in Minneapolis. So Mike Clemens will help us make sense of that. The Tush push did not pass like many expected it to. It got 22 votes, so it got a lot of votes, but it needed 24, which I believe the logic there is 3/4 majority, 32 teams need 24. They got 22. So we'll talk about that. I have some thoughts on that as well. A little bit of a show that's been thrown together because I was doing Bill's show earlier, and I do have other duties throughout the day. I had to get an oil change this afternoon. I know I'm not a victim, but a lot of things that I want to get to, a little disorganized, but that's part of the fun of live radio. I'll take your calls as well, 608-321-1670, and you can comment on the live stream, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Wednesdays, I almost said Monday, forgot what day it is. Wednesdays on the Wisco Sports Show, WEAC Wednesdays, if you will, sponsored by a La Crosse Beer House, the corner of 3rd and Pearl in downtown La Crosse. I know graduation at UWL. I'm sure lots of you stopped there last weekend, so the weather was a little bit nicer than it has been the last few days. Maybe they get those big windows open so you get the breeze blowing through, some authentic German food, those brats that are so good, that are packaged and put together right up the hill at Bubba's Meats on the south side of La Crosse. Authentic German beers. So we appreciate La Crosse Beer House being a partner of the show and really helping us do lots of things, whether it's go to spring training or go to the Super Bowl. Really appreciate La Crosse Beer House as they are the presenting sponsor of Wednesdays on the Wisco Sports Show. So if you weren't paying attention at all to the Brewer game this afternoon, I'll get you caught up really quickly. They ended up losing today 8-4, but it went to extras. It went through the 11th, actually, and the Orioles kind of busted it open against Tyler Alexander in the 11th. And you might say, well, Grant, why the hell is Tyler Alexander pitching in the 11th? Okay, well, that's a good question. Tyler Alexander's appearance in the 11th today was a product of the way that this bullpen has been managed throughout the week. And this first became an issue last night. You could argue it's been an issue maybe the entire season, but it's really come to a head this week. And I'm going to do my best to kind of go night to night and pitcher to pitcher and explain how the Brewers ended up in this spot, right? So you have someone like Trevor McGill, who pitched today for the 3rd time in 4 days, probably didn't have his best stuff. Nick Mears pitched today for the 3rd time in 4 days, and they almost asked him to go 2 full innings, which is insane. His whiff rate is down. I wonder why. He's been pitching so much. Spencer Michaelis tweeted, and I bookmarked it. I bookmarked a ton of crap today, so let me scroll and find this. I thought it was a really good nugget. Nick Mears, in the games he's been active, and remember, he was dealing with an injury, so he's missed a little time this year. He's pitched in almost half of the games that he's been active in this year. He's pitched way too much. This is Spencer's tweet from an hour ago. Nick Mears has been active for 40 games. He's pitched in 21 of them. On his 3rd game in 4 days, and this is today, Murph asks him to go get 6 outs. That's just too much. Easton McGee has not pitched since being called up, but we are complaining about being shorthanded in the pen. So McGill 3 times in 4 days, Nick Mears 3 times in 4 days, and he's basically pitched in half the games he's been active, coming off an injury, which is too much. They asked him to try to get 6 outs today. He couldn't do it, so they go to Pyamps, who pitched last night, but was brought in with 2 outs in an inning, which is okay. Like, if it's a matchup thing, it's fine, but it was the 9-hole hitter, and the next 2 hitters were lefties. So it's not even advantageous to bring Pyamps in last night to roll him over because you like the matchups that are due up in the next frame, because that wasn't even true. So I don't really blame Pyamps for giving it up today. He's probably tired and hasn't been used correctly. Nick Mears has been used way too much. Trevor McGill has been used way too much. And they've got to a point today where they basically had one guy remaining. It was Tyler Alexander, who had to pitch the 9th because no one else was available. And as Kurt Hogue shared during the game, and I bookmarked, Tyler Alexander has thrown 33 pitches for 5 outs yesterday and has 84 pitches thrown throughout this homestand as a total. They've been running this bullpen into the ground. And I know they're dealing with some absences and some injuries. And Tyler and Mass comments on the live stream, it's a good point. Could have used Hall and Ashby out there today. Yeah, today is a day where, like, yeah, you're a little shorthanded. You could have DL Hall or Aaron Ashby. Those are guys who would help you. But it's not like they haven't gotten length from starters. Chad Patrick was good again today. Logan Henderson was excellent again last night. It's not like the first month of the season where, man, if you could get a starter to go 3 innings, you were lucky. Like, they've been getting length from their starters. Murphy just has been a little chaotic with how he's implemented his bullpen. And I know Craig Counsell drove us nuts because the Brewers would be down a run or 2 in a game that felt winnable, and he'd bring in some scrub, some slap, or someone who's not one of their best relievers, and we'd get mad, be like, oh, you're giving the game away, you're giving up on the game. Well, sometimes you got to roll one of your relievers out there who you don't fully trust, and you just got to cross your fingers. Because you can't use McGill every single night 3 times in 4 days. You can't use Nick Mears half of the games he's been active coming off of an injury 3 times in 4 days. And the 3rd appearance for 2 innings? What are you, a psycho? Pyamps, I like Pyamps. He's got plus stuff, and no, the Brewers should not option him as many people on Brewers Twitter want. You can't. He's got too much He's got too much good ability as a reliever to miss bats and to get whiffs and to do things as a high-level reliever. Okay, so he has a bad couple of weeks. He did last year. The Brewers worked through it. He's still one of their better options in the bullpen. But you got to deploy him when he should be deployed, not with 2 outs, not with 2 lefties coming up the next inning. Like, it just needs to make more sense. And if the bullpen gives up runs, or if Easton McGee's got to go out there and he gives up runs, that's part of a baseball season that's 162 games long. Like, that's just a reality that the Brewers and Pat Murphy have to get a little bit more comfortable with. And I can't walk away every single night from a Brewers game wondering, I don't really understand why Pat Murphy did that. I don't really get why he brought that guy in here. A little bit too much based on vibes. And it all came to a head today when the Brewers had no other option in the 11th inning in a game they really would have loved to have, other than Tyler Alexander, who's not a high leverage guy that you trust, and he's pitched way too much. And I think the best way to illustrate this, or the best way to consider the Brewers' issue in their bullpen right now, is a Dave Ramsey type of analogy. So I listen to a ton of Dave Ramsey. I went 2 years ago, I did nothing but listen to Dave Ramsey for like a year. And then I went on a little break, and now I'm back in it. Part of it is twofold. Number one, I really like Dave Ramsey's show. It's incredibly compelling talk radio. No wonder he's been on so many stations for so long. It's just entertaining. You know, some 28-year-old bozo from Wichita calls in. It's like, Dave, I'm $200,000 in debt, and I just bought a new speedboat. And then Dave is like, you know, it's just so entertaining. Dave goes, are you stupid? You can't buy a speedboat. You're in debt. Like, and he just goes, it's very entertaining, right? It's very compelling. I also listen to a ton of Dave Ramsey because, honestly, most of the sports talk in this state absolutely blows. I mean, not to call it anyone in particular, but I got to see a clip from ESPN Milwaukee today saying Homer wants to trade Churio. Like, there's just no good options. I like Bill, but I'm on his friggin' show. I'm not going to listen to it on my drive home. I like Ebo. I listen to that on my drive in. There's just not many good options. So I listen to a lot of Dave Ramsey, okay? And a lot of times when people call into Dave and they're in financial troubles, it's not because they made one horrible financial decision. Nobody calls Dave Ramsey and is like, hey, I'm really pressed for cash. And Dave's like, okay, well, what's your issue? And they're like, well, I got a car payment. Okay, well, if it was just that, you'd sell the car. And it might stink, but that's an easy fix, right? A lot of people who get deep into financial troubles and then they call the Ramsey show is because, well, you know, we got into really bad credit card debt. So then we transferred all of that debt into like a HELOC or something. And then when that, and then we had a car breakdown. So we had to get a new car. And then like the old, something with the old car parlayed into this and that. And it becomes this twisted mess of a decision here and a decision there. And that's how we ended up with the current situation. This Brewers situation is pretty similar. The issue today in today's game and the big picture issue about the Brewers is not Tyler Alexander, right? Tyler Alexander pitching the 11th is just the result of a bad decision here, and one bad decision begets the next, which begets the next, and it becomes this mess, and all of a sudden you're calling the Dave Ramsey show $300,000 in debt with 2 cars you can't afford, student loan debts on top of it, and we thought we could fix the debt by combining it all into a HELOC, and that didn't really fix the debt. It just moved it into a different place, and now how did we get here? Well, you can go back and count all the issues. It's McGill 3 times in 4 days. It's Nick Mears 3 times in 4 days. Inexplicably, like, let's try to get 2 innings out of him today. Like, that makes no sense. It's Pyomps here, there, everywhere when some of his usage doesn't make sense at all. Murphy just has to be more responsible and thoughtful with the way that he's deploying these guys. And if that means using Grant Anderson instead of Nick Mears in a close game that you'd like to win, tough. You know what I mean? Like, that's just your lot in life. And I caught a little bit of Murphy's presser. We'll listen to some of it coming up next. I want to take some of your calls too. He talks about, well, we got guys injured and we're missing guys. Yeah, but you don't have that many guys injured. Sure, Aaron Ashby might help or DL Hall might help. But it's not like your best relievers on the shelf. Uribe, McGill, Mears is a pretty good 1, 2, 3. And Pyomps, I'm softer on Pyomps than most because I think he's a good pitcher who's misused and sometimes has gone through tough stretches. They have 3 or 4 relievers that you really like in leverage. Murphy's got to get better at figuring out how to preserve those guys, and he's got to get better at realizing when to use them and when you might have to get by with Grant Anderson or Tyler Alexander or whoever. Like, he's just got to get better at that stuff, because then you get to the end of a series or the end of a homestand in the 11th inning of a game you really want to have to keep the winning streak going at home in a game that you've had the lead, and you have to pitch Tyler Alexander in the 11th because of all these bad decisions that have added up to this point here. That's how we got here. And part of that, a small part of that is injuries. Obviously, the offense stinks. But running your bullpen and your relief pitchers into the ground in a haphazard, reckless fashion, that can't be excused just because your offense can't score. You know what I mean? It's not Trevor McGill's fault that Christian Yelich and Jackson Chourio are absolutely lost. Like, don't make the problem worse. Don't make the credit card problem worse by going out and buying a car you can't afford, and then opening up another credit card and then combining all those credit cards into a lot. Like, that's not good process. You know what I mean? Sometimes you might just have to take your licks because guess what? McGill's not available. Or Nick Mears isn't available. And we got to figure something else out today. And Murphy's really bad at that. And some of his explanations, and I kind of expected this in the postgame and we didn't get it, so I won't be hard on Murphy for this. Sometimes we get an explanation where it's like, hey, why did you bring Nick Mears in, but he only pitched to 2 batters, and then you brought Pyops in? And a lot of times from Murphy, we get like, well, Mears has worked really hard, so I didn't want to ask him to do a full inning. It's okay. If you're worried about his usage, don't pitch him. You know what I mean? If you think he's working too hard, then give him the night off. He's either available or he's not. He's either the right pitcher in this spot or he's not. He's either fatigued or he's not. And Murphy all too often is too aggressive with using these guys, and he's half in and half out, and he lacks conviction on when to use this guy versus when not to use this guy. And for all the complaints about Craig Counsell, like, he had a pretty good beat on that, and he understood that. And it wasn't always the popular thing, and we complained about it. But guess what? Fans are idiots, myself included. Let's take a call, 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Brad, it's Corey.
Hey, Corey. I figured that might be you, Corey. I just had a sense. What's up?
Well, I like talking Brewers with you because, like you said, there's only really so many options in the state. And when you got people having takes that they should trade Jackson Chourio at this point, it's kind of like eyeball bleeding painful. So,
yeah.
And you already touched on it. The offense stinks, obviously. And I was thinking about that myself. I'm like, well, part of the problem is you're using your best guys because you can't score that many runs. But I wanted to get your opinion on this. Was Pat Murphy like this haphazard last year? That's a full year ago. And I know you probably didn't think of doing this right now, but like, was he kind of like this super aggressive last year too? And I can't recall them having as many problems. Was the bullpen maybe deeper last year? Well, I want to say it was.
Hudson's probably the best example. They used Hudson last year very similarly to the way they're using Mears now. And I think by the end of the year, he was cashed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one example. I could go back and probably find you others, but that's the loud memory that is easily accessible. Like they did last year with Brian Hudson, what they're doing with Nick Mears now.
Yeah, and I agree with you. At least the complete error to get let out of the balloon, get shut out, and embarrass themselves. So maybe it's baby steps. That's what we're just going to have to go by. But they're 50 games into this, just about Grant, and you start kind of looking at the numbers and you start thinking like, well, is this the team they're going to be? Right? They're third of the season. So
yeah, but you know what, Corey?
They're going to have to run off 8 out of 10 or 10 out of 12 at some point here to really like make them
to get over 500 and to get the run differential back over 0. But here's the thing, Corey. Just because the offense stinks and because this team might not be great, there goes Corey. Just because this offense stinks and just because the team is dealing with injuries or the team might not be great, you say, well, this might be the team that they are. Okay, that's true. But that doesn't excuse Murphy making these types of mistakes with bullpen usage. You know what I mean? Some things are out of Murphy's control. And he all but said it the other night when he's like, look, we didn't spend a whole lot of money this offseason. And some guys like Yelich and Chourio and William Contreras, who's dealing with an injury, so he gets a little bit of a pass, although he could just go on the IL. Like, no one's making him play. So I'm not going to completely give him a pass, but he gets a little bit of a pass. Just because those guys aren't hitting, and just because Matt Arnold made some bad trades, and just because the team maybe didn't want to spend an extra $5 million to go get Yoan Moncada or something, that doesn't impair Murphy from just doing the right things with bullpen usage. There's still plenty of things that are well within Murphy's control that he's not being smart with. He's not doing a good enough job with the bullpen. And I'm not going to let him off the hook. We're not just going to go, wow, the team's not any good anyways. Okay, well, then I'll just turn the mic off and go home. You know what I mean? Because that's not how sports talk radio works. So the loss today is not the end of the world. Overall, it was a good series. And if they take, what do they have, 4 games with the Pirates now? If they take 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 from the Pirates, it'll be a great week. Great night for Contreras. Really good night for Frelick last night. Durbin even had a moment or two today. And Hoskins is continuing to be great. Like this week is not a bust if they keep winning more than they lose, and the series wasn't a bust. Today's loss wasn't the end of the world. It's not like they got slabbed and shut out 8-0 like they did by the White Sox or, other teams coming out of a mini little winning streak. It's more about the process. Like, Murphy cannot continue to operate this way. And he doesn't get a pass for operating this way just because the team isn't that great or just because the offense isn't producing. That doesn't preclude him from making smarter, better, more informed bullpen decisions. It's a maturity thing, honestly. Like, you have to be smarter. You have to focus a little bit more and think a little bit more. You can't just bring relievers in on vibes because you want to win a game. You know what I mean? Especially because the more you use Nick Mears and the more that you use Trevor McGill 3 times in 4 days, or Mears like 21 appearances in 40 games he's been active, at a certain point, when you call on those guys, they're not going to be able to perform at the level you need anyways. We saw that with Brian Hudson last year. So that's my opening thoughts. I know I'm all over the place. A little bit of a hectic day with Bill's show earlier and then watching the Brewers wrap up. I do have a couple comments from Pat Murphy. Shout out to our friend Kurt Hogue, who asked some very direct questions about bullpen usage in the press conference. We'll get to that next. I'll get to more of your phone calls. We'll talk Tush Push. Mike Clemens is going to be here at 5:30, so a lot of good stuff coming up on the Wisco Sports Show. Hang in, and I, again, would love to take your calls next at 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Murph, considering the state of the bullpen going into that, to lose and have to use all those guys, is that kind of a worst case for a one-game loss?
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts, but every team gets in this situation. Not every team has as many guys out as we have, but you're going to get in these situations because in baseball today that, the bullpens are getting used, and it's very rare. Pitchers are going 7 and 8, and that really helps your team overall when that happens because you save your pen. But, these, again, you get 7 hits in a game and the opponents get 14, you usually don't win the game. But we had a chance to win, and there was a lot of good things today. There's a lot of good fact that we scored in the 9th and the 10th. Showed a little bit of character for this team. I think there was a lot of positives today. And we made some mistakes. And our bullpen battled. I mean, we put us in a position, McGill put us in a position to win, and we didn't do it. And to have to use Todd, I don't know how much the guy's pitched. He's pitched a whole lot. So that was tough.
That's Murph right after the game. First question out of the chute. A hat tip to Kurt Hogue for being like, hey, man, you just used your entire pen after basically using them nonstop all week, and then you lost. Does that hurt? The obvious answer is yes. And then Murph gives a good 60 seconds of explanation. I got a couple more questions and answers along the bullpen, which is where I want to begin tonight. Bullpen usage. We'll get into the tush push at 4:30 here in about 10 minutes. So if you want to talk Packers and the developments at the meetings up in Minneapolis today, we can do that. It's pretty juicy. It's pretty interesting. I have some good reports from Florio and from Rossini and others that I want to share. And then Mike Clemens is going to join us at 5:30 to tell us even more. But I want to start with the bullpen usage. Because even though their offense wasn't good enough today, and by and large, it's not even close to good enough the rest of the year. And Churio is lost. Now, not only at the plate, but out in the field and on the base paths, gets thrown out in extras after knocking in Terang. It's like, okay, maybe that doesn't end up making a difference, but it's like mentally, he just seems to be all over the place right now. There's that. The offense has been good enough. Starting pitching has been more than good enough. You want to complain about the bullpen being overworked. It's not the fault of no length from starting pitching. You can basically set your watch to whether it's Logan Henderson, who was very good again last night. I mean, Priester was even excellent the other night. He wasn't perfect, but he gave you length. He got you into the 6th. Chad Patrick was excellent again today. Again, not Cy Young stuff, but they are doing their jobs. And the relievers, when given adequate rest, have done a great job doing their jobs as well. The problem is, I just don't think Murphy has shown acumen and sound decision-making deploying these guys. McGill's gone 3 times in 4 days. He didn't have his best stuff today. He couldn't miss bats. Mears has gone 3 times in 4 days, 20 times or so in the 40 games he's been active, and they asked him to try to go 2 innings today. That's insane. And then they bring Payamps in for the final out again after doing it last night, and it didn't make sense last night because there was only 1 out remaining in the inning. It was the 9-hole hitter, and it didn't even make sense from the perspective of rolling Payamps over to the next frame because the next 2 batters up were lefties anyway. So none of it makes sense. It seems very fly by the seat of the pants, very immature, lacking foresight. And it's not Tyler Alexander's fault that he's stuck being the guy out there in the 11th inning. And it's not even like Tyler Alexander has been rested. He's thrown a ton of pitches and a ton of innings this series just on this homestand alone. So that's my complaint about the Brewers. The fact that they lost today is whatever. I mean, they'd won 3 in a row. It's a nice series. They'll have an opportunity to keep it going against Pittsburgh. I hope they do. But this bullpen's just not going to make it. And it's not because they're injured. Murphy likes to bring that up. It's like they're missing a couple guys, but do you expect to have your top 8 relievers available all the time? It's not going to happen, especially when you pitch them day after day after day after day. Here's a little bit more from Murphy. I believe the next question after the shoot, or out of the shoot after that first question and answer you heard from Kurt Hogue, is Dom Catronia, the next voice that you'll hear.
How do you view, going back to Sunday even, just the dance of not being able to add on, starters haven't gone deep, and having to use your bullpen over and over? How has this just kind of reached the climax today?
So it's a good question. And if you can't hear it, I'll do my best to relay information. You should be able to hear that okay. Dom saying, well, when your offense can't add on, and instead of being up 6-1 or 7-1, you're up 3 or 4-1, right? You need to use leverage guys because the game's closer. What I'm saying is you can't. Even when you want to, even when your offense demands it, you can't. As a manager, you need to show more maturity and smarts and management skills to say, you know what, I really want to use Nick Mears tonight. We're going to have to try to get by with Grant Anderson. We're going to have to try to get by with Easton McGee or whatever the heck his name is. Here's Murph's answer.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, we had to use guys because we didn't have.
You didn't have to, though. That's my point. You chose to.
Man on third and less than two. We didn't do that. So that's where I'm telling you guys, like where the defense affects the pitching, affects the offense, and when the offense doesn't add on, it affects the bullpen, and so you're right. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you win all three games, but you don't add on, and you got guys going on fumes,
With Mears,
and you have to have all 8 guys in the pen helping you. You just do in these situations.
with Mears specifically, do you see any fatigue there? He's had to pitch a lot since he came back from the IL, and just like the strikeout rate is.
Yeah.
So the whiff rate is down. And again, I'll jump in here one more time. Spencer Michaelis, it's really, really good. Wisconsin Lutheran coach, but he does some Brewers coverage and podcasting. He's excellent, really smart. Nick Mears has been active for 40 games. He's pitched in 21 of them. On his third game in 4 days, Murph asks him to go get 6 outs. That's just too much. And I believe I can give you one stat, not only on the usage of Nick Mears, but also on, kind of the wavering effectiveness. We saw this with Brian Hudson last year too, right? Nick Mears, in his first 10 appearances, a strikeout rate of 28.9%. In his last 11 appearances, 12.9%. It's basically been cut in half, more than half, actually. He's tired because he's pitching too much.
I mean, I don't know those particulars, but it's obvious the guy's been worked a lot, and but he's thrown the ball good. He's thrown the ball good. He had a couple blips on the screen, but I just feel like whenever any of those guys that haven't thrown 2 innings this year, you know what I mean, you put them in the second inning, then you're asking for it when the pitch count gets up there in the 20s, and you're like, okay, now we got one hitter for this next guy to get out. And we didn't get it done.
Was there any way that you guys thought of to navigate it without Mears going for a second?
We could have, but we knew where we're at. Here's McGee making his first appearance in the big leagues in how long? How many years? 2 years?
Tough.
So you don't know what you're going to get. He was great. I'm really proud of him.
I don't know what I'm going to get from Nick Mears pitching for the third time in 4 days, or Trevor McGill, but at least I know Easton McGee's fresh. At least I know I'm not continuing to wear him down. None of this is ever guaranteed. You have to operate by faith and luck sometimes because you just can't use your studs every night.
You got one out of McGill, and where do you go? Emergency, Alexander, absolute emergency. What would we have done if we tied it?
Absolute emergency. But you know why? You know why it's an emergency? Because of the actions in the days leading up to today. It's not like the bus carrying the relief pitchers broke down on the way to the ballpark and McGill and Mears and Pyomps were stranded in Greenfield and they had no way to get to the game. That's an emergency. This wasn't an emergency. Well, because of an emergency, we had to go to Tyler. No, it was because of your actions and your decisions to deploy certain relievers too often.
After that, we might have had Bowers pitching the 12th.
You took him out.
Huh?
Isn't he out of there?
Who's that?
Bowers?
Yeah. But I mean, before that, I was thinking, Bowers
before you
pitching
fell
in a
down 4
leverage
runs
situation there, because we were gonna. There was a chance. Now we could have left Easton McGee in. There's all sorts of ifs and buts, but you tie the game, and you're like, okay, in extra innings, you need to punch out. You know what I mean? When you think about it, in extra innings with the guy at second.
It's harder to miss bats when you're tired. Look at McGill and look at Mears.
You need to punch out. And we did some good things, and there's some youthful mistakes. Durbin's base running was great, and Collins'
youthful mistakes. Youthful mistakes. Okay, Churio in center. I don't know that that's youth as much as it's just a lack of confidence right now. Murphy, if Durbin makes a mistake playing third base because he's not a major league third baseman, that's fine. But that's not why you lost. That's not why your bullpen is worn down to the bone right now.
And, doing things that in big situations, but I think somehow these struggles, whatever you call them, I feel like they're struggles. I know we're not that far away, but I feel like these struggles will help in the long run.
Maybe. Or you just continue to work these relievers, and they end up like Brian Hudson last year, where it's like you've lost velocity, you can't miss bats, and now you're of no use to us. You're going to be in the minors, despite being one of our best and most trusted relievers all year because you work too hard. All right, we'll take a break, couple minutes, pause, come back, and we'll talk about the Tush push because there's a lot of juice, a lot of good reporting, an interesting saga to kind of break down and to pick apart as the vote ended 22-10, needed 24 votes. It was very, very close, just not quite. I want to talk about that and the Packers rolling, trying to get this play banned next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Big River Rally coming to La Crosse, Wisconsin, June 27th and 28th. Don't miss the excitement on the main stage. Friday night, it's Texas Hippie Coalition. And Saturday night, Drowning Pool. Tickets are on sale now. Want more? Follow Big River Rally on social or go to BigRiverRally.com.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. We really haven't had very many discussions about it. I'm sure we will over the next few weeks as we head into the owners' meetings. But so I'm aware that we did, but really haven't had many discussions about it. Again, I think there'll be a lot of discussions about it. I got to kind of look at the some of the information as far as injury rates, things like that, to see. But we'll see.
That's Brian Gutekunst back at the Combine. So February, March, April, May, 3 months ago in late February. I'm doing my math correctly, right? Which kind of gets us into our conversation about the Tush Push because it was voted on officially today. Needs 24 votes to pass, which is 3/4 of the league. It got 22. So I find it interesting that a lot of people today are like up the Packers' ass. Like, oh, the Packers loser trying to do that. It's like 22 of the other owners voted to get rid of it too. And if it was allowed to be anonymous, I think more would. I think a big driving factor for this, and we've been talking about this the last couple of days, like these owners, they don't want to come across as losers, which is why the Packers maybe were the team selected by the league to try to champion this thing and get it through. And I played you that soundbite last night from Albert Breer, where he basically said, well, shoot, I can play it again. I'm organized. I know exactly where the soundbite is. Albert Breer on the Dan Patrick Show yesterday, as he so masterfully does, just kind of couches it, just kind of mentions like, yeah, the league would really like to see this go through, which is his way of saying, I know everything. I know everybody. I talk to everybody. This is the league's doing. But he presents it in a way where it's like, yeah, well, I think the league would like to see this one pass.
The Tush Push is going to be voted on. And I think that one, the commissioner of the league office really want to get that through.
There you go.
Whether or not
that's Albert Breer's way of saying the league wants to get this through, and I'm fully aware because I've talked to a bunch of people and they've said such. Right? Diana Rossini tweeting about this yesterday as well. The Athletic really plugged in. So Florio dropped a story this afternoon at 1:15 p.m., a couple of hours after the vote went through. I think it happened at about 10:30 Central Time. It's about 3 hours after it went through. And I'm just going to read you directly. This is reporting from Mike Florio. When Lions president Rod Wood blurted out that the league officials nudged the Lions to propose a new seating system, it opened a new avenue for understanding how the rulemaking sausage gets made. By the way, this type of thing is right up Florio's alley. Oh, the NFL's trying to quietly do something behind the scenes. I'm going to expose them, which, by the way, is what journalism is, right? We're trying to figure out things that would never otherwise be found out. But this type of truth, this is Florio's wheelhouse. And we suggested at the time that 345 Park Avenue possibly put the Packers up to proposing a tush push ban too. Per a league source, that's exactly what happened. The league asked the Packers to do it, and the Packers took one for the team. As the source put it, most in the Green Bay organization don't care about the play either way. By the way, if you listen to comments from Goody and LaFleur and Mark Murphy over the last couple of weeks, like you could tell that they'd probably rather do away with it. But do they sound that fired up about it? They're like, well, yeah, I know we're proposing something and, health and safety and, is it a football play? But they're not going to the mattresses for this thing. It's not like they're speaking at someone's campaign rally. They're like, I guess. And again, as the source put it, most in the Green Bay organization don't care about the play either. It never made sense for the Packers to be the anti-tush push poster child. They lost to the Eagles twice last year. A proposal coming from Green Bay reeked of sour grapes, which I don't think the Packers give a F about. And I still don't think they give an F about. They don't care what everyone thinks. Do the Packers strike you as a franchise that's really, really concerned about public opinion? Come on. The league would have been better advised to get a team from the AFC other than the Chiefs. Bills coach Sean McDermott spoke out in favor of the proposal. McDermott's voice had credibility because his team uses the maneuver and does it well. I don't know that this matters all that much. But again, Florio, this is right up his alley. Of course, the initial version of the proposal blamed an immediate push of the player receiving the snap. The Bills don't run it that way. When the proposal shifted to a version that banned all pushing, the Bills may have felt a little differently. Regardless, the Packers are the ones the league office targeted, and the Packers are the ones that will carry the public embarrassment of the proposal going to a vote instead of being withdrawn and failing, which is really bizarre to me as well. Like, so the Packers are embarrassed because it went to a vote and almost passed, but they would not carry embarrassment had they said, well, it's not going to pass. Never mind, we'll pull out. What's the difference? The truth is, it's not on the Packers. The league office wanted to get rid of the play. For whatever reason, the league decided not to propose the measure through normal procedure, but create the impression that one specific team decided to push for no tush push. Well done, Florio. So the Packers are wearing this today, but it's clear that this is a league initiative. Another thing that's insane to me, and this was reported at The Athletic by Diana Rossini. Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie spent the better part of an hour. By the way, consider how long that is. Oh, an hour. That's not that long. No. I want you, and trust me, I hosted a 4-hour radio show earlier today. I'm hosting a 2-hour show that I do every night. An hour. Go into your room tonight, if you got nothing better to do, stand in front of a mirror and talk for an hour about anything. It's a long-ass time. Jeffrey Lurie spent the better part of an hour making a final impression on the NFL owners before they voted on the future of the tush push. As he attempted to make his point, he was emotional, passionate, and at one point, crude. Here's an excerpt from the story. He told the other owners that the fact that his team came up with a play so unstoppable that the rest of the league had no choice but to try to ban it was like, quote, a wet dream for a teenage boy. Hold on a moment. I just want to make sure that I have this correctly. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. The league put the Packers up to submitting a proposal to get rid of a rule that almost 3/4 of the league voted to do away with. It didn't get the necessary 3/4 to pass, but 22 out of 32 votes is a lot. Certainly more than a majority. Not quite a supermajority, but almost a majority. The league asks the Packers to do them a favor to submit a rule change that almost 3/4 of the league agrees with. It doesn't pass. The Eagles owner, who is a Nepo baby, as many owners are, not all, but a good amount, gets on his hands and knees in front of his fellow millionaires and billionaires, rants for an hour to the point of tears, and uses an analogy that's based on sexual gratification. And the Packers are the team that's supposed to be embarrassed today? Come on. Really? Why? Because the Packers lost to him twice last year? I watched that playoff game. The tush push or no tush push. That game would have gone exactly the same. Keyshawn Nixon head slammed a linebacker with 50 pounds on him and coughed the ball up on the opening snap. That game had nothing to do with the tush push. If you can't beat it, try to ban it. Nothing to do with the tush push. In fact, the Packers statistically are one of the teams that are actually better at dealing with it. No team is great with it because turns out a yard when you can execute properly isn't that difficult to pick up unless you're the Bills, because they're the Bills. I just don't understand why everyone's, oh, the Packers got to be embarrassed. Do you think Mark Murphy gets embarrassed? Do you think Mark Murphy's gone on the internet today? Do you think he's scrolling his timeline like, oh, we're going to have to wear this one for a while? This team drafted Jordan Love after losing in the NFC Championship game and then drafted A.J. Dillon and Josiah DeGuara. Do you think this is an organization that gives an F what people think about them, what people say about them? Yeah, I tell you what, I'm very pleased with my Packers. They're doing a favor for the league. Whatever. And this goes back a long time. The Packers notoriously, and this has been shared by Andrew Brandt and others, have been a team that plays ball with agents when they're like, hey, can we say that we talked to you so we can drum up leverage? Packers are like, sure, I don't care. So I don't know, like, if the league offered to do the Packers a favor down the line or whatever. I don't know. Maybe the league was like, hey, you just did the draft. We let you do that. Like, could you help us out? And Mark Murphy's probably like, Mark Murphy, first of all, was probably eating. He had a sandwich. He's like, oh, sure, I'm on my way out. I don't care. I don't care. Sure, whatever. They don't care. They don't care. And by the way, And I talked about this with Austin on Bill's show earlier today regarding the tush push. I don't care about health and safety. Although if Jalen Hurts breaks his hip this year, I'm not going to cry. You know what I mean? Like, it's probably not the safest play, but if you want to run it, knock yourself out. I don't care about player safety. I want the game to be as safe as possible, but it's not flag football. Guys are going to get hurt. I understand that. It's an awful product. I care about the game on my television. How can we maximize that? And not every game is going to be great, but you know what? As sure as a game isn't as good as it's going to be, like 5 or 6 times through 4 quarters, watching a team play grab ass in a pig pile for a yard. Get that out of my face. You want to watch that? Go to southwestern Minnesota, watch 8-man football. Go watch Goodhue. I know it's southeastern Minnesota. You get my point. Go watch Albert Lee play Goodhue or whatever. Go watch those guys beat their skulls into each other. Well, that's real football. Then go to an 8-man game. Drive up to Hurley and watch them play a game this fall. You keep my football on my television as the best product possible, please. So I'm not bent out of shape over this. I doubt that many people are. The league wanted it to get through. The Packers like, sure, we'll put it up to a vote, and it almost passed. All right, who cares? Jordan Love's still got to play better. Wide receivers still aren't good enough. Like, this is far from the top of the list of the biggest issues. And if you would have watched the Packers-Eagles playoff game, you'd know that. But people on the internet are obtuse. What's new? Mike Clemens is going to join us in about 40 minutes to talk about this at 5:30. We'll connect with him. It'll be nice to touch base with Mike. In the meantime, time for your calls. And I'm going to get to some of your texts next. 608-321-1670.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. This stuff's really
Wisco Sports Show. Going to get to some texts here before we break at 5 o'clock. We'll get to Zach's update. And then in hour number 2, boy, oh boy, Mike Clemens, 5:35 to talk about the Tush push, other developments up in Green Bay with the Packers. On the Tush push, 6 Foot Steve says, oh, how embarrassing it will be when that first Bears fan drops a sick burn related to the Packers' failed attempt to ban the Tush push as they walk out of Lambeau with 10 minutes remaining in another double-digit loss. Egg on the face indeed, 6 Foot Steve. The Bears voted to get rid of it too. In fact, Ben Johnson was asked about it today at his presser. It's like, do you like the tush push? He's like, no, I like explosive plays. Get that crap out of my face. So the Bears voted against it too. 3/4 of the league did, or 2 teams short of 3/4 of the league. So I guess the Packers were the tip of the spear, but like someone had to be the tip of the spear. Someone had to go into the dark room first, and everyone else followed. Corey from Marshall says, agree that Murphy doesn't get a pass on poor decision-making. Also, facing the Pirates is a good opportunity to keep the vibes high. Funny juxtaposition to Pat's tweet at Wisco Granny says, will the Brewers score any runs in their 4 games against Pittsburgh? We will see. You know, everyone likes to dump on the Pirates like, oh, we got a chance to get right against the Pirates. The Pirates are offensively not that dissimilar from the Brewers. If you look at OPS plus or barrels or whatever, like the Brewers are keeping company with the Pirates, with the White Sox, with the Rockies. You ever heard the expression, you are the company you keep? Well, the Brewers have a better pitching staff, and they're better run. But manager, I don't know. Pat Murphy's managing his bullpen a little bit like a terrorist, a baseball terrorist. Grow up, I can make a joke. Joe in Minneapolis says, can we get a Survivor prediction for tonight? I think Joe is the most likely winner. And then a toss-up between Camilla and Kyle, because I think only one of them probably makes the final. Eva's not winning. Like, I don't think Eva can win. She can sit at the final tribal, but she's not going to get the votes because what has she done? Plus, everyone on the show is probably like, Eva hasn't had to play the game. She's won some challenges and she's got some rewards, but never at all has she been in danger. She could have been voted out or blindsided multiple times. The rest of the cast just elected not to do it, and she went on every reward. She ate. She was fat and happy. Like, Eva's not going to win. She might make it, but she's not going to get the votes. Joe, if he makes it, could get the votes. Kyle and Camilla, if they make it, could get the votes. I don't think Mitch is just hanging out at this point. So I guess the most likely choice would be Joe, and then behind him would probably be 50% Camilla, 50% Kyle. And if they both get to the final, then they probably split the vote, which makes it easier for Joe if Joe's the other person. I don't know. Joe seems most likely. You could split it a bunch of different ways. Rick from Spencer says a new 3-hour Rogan interview with Aaron Rodgers just dropped. Oh, brother. So Cone, I saw Cone tweeting about this today, that Rodgers went on Rogan. And I actually messaged some friends, and I'm like, oh, I'll listen to Rodgers on Rogan, because here's the thing. Rodgers is self-indulgent and doesn't have a shred of self-awareness and is kind of a boob. But you know what? Those people make the best podcast guests. The people who think everything that comes out of their mouth is completely and totally true. I'm smarter. Listen to me. Like, that's who I want to listen to. But then somebody told me that they had listened to it and it was like all vaccine talk. We're so past that. Unless it's like flu shots, which still doesn't really interest me, but it's less lame than continuing to obsess over a COVID shot 5 years later. And if you didn't get the shot or you got the shot, it doesn't matter. But it's 2025, man. Like, you're Aaron Rodgers. You're very interesting. I would listen to you, but I don't want to listen to you talk about that. That's just kind of lame. And we've seen that movie before. We've done that song and dance before. Robin Stoddard says, Grant, so far this season has been a major letdown as a Brewers fan, but it's only May. So no need to be panicking as a fan base yet. And listening to the show, I had aced my finals at UWL. Well, good for you, Rob. Happy that you aced your finals. Cheers to the graduates. Yeah, it's still May. I'd feel better today if they got back to 500. Today's loss wasn't crippling, but still some worrying signs. We'll talk more about it on the other side. Hour 2 next after Zach's update.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Brewers have still not swept the series this year. That's after falling 8-4 to Baltimore at American Family Field earlier today in 11 innings. Milwaukee led 2-1 heading into the 8th inning before giving up a pair of runs. Brewers tied the game in the bottom of the 9th with a Caleb Durbin RBI. Did so again in the bottom of the 10th with a Jackson Churio single. But the Orioles blew the game open in the 11th with a 3-run homer from Adley Rutschman. Tyler Alexander, who took the loss. The loss ruined what was a really nice start from Chad Patrick. Went 4 2/3 innings, allowing just 1 run on 4 hits while striking out 7. He lowered his ERA to 3.23 on the season. Before the late heroics from Durbin and Cheerio, Milwaukee's offense came in the 5th and 6th innings. Bryce Terang credited with an RBI and a ground out that allowed Durbin to score. Then Rhys Hoskins hit a home run for the second straight day. He's now got 7 on the year, 4 of which have come in the month of May. The loss snapped Milwaukee's 3-game winning streak. Baltimore winners for the first time in 8 games. Brewers are now 24 and 26 on the year. Can hit the road starting tomorrow for a 4-game series in Pittsburgh.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer. But did you know they also offer competitive home, auto, business, and life insurance? They make it convenient to bundle your insurance while saving you time and money. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Tush push is still alive. That's after the Packers' proposal to ban it did not get enough votes earlier today at the NFL League meetings in Minneapolis. The ban needed 24 votes, only got 22. Meanwhile, the Badgers' 2026 season opener at Lambeau Field against Notre Dame is getting moved back by a day. It's now Sunday, September 6th. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
I feel like I'm swinging it good. I mean, the home run swing, kind of just like the whole inning, how that transpired, just the guys before me, allows me to go up there and really look up in the zone and, try to hit a fly ball or other at-bats. That's never my intent.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
I know it's not at the top of anybody's mind, or I shouldn't say anybody. It's probably not at the top of most of your minds, but a little Badgers news, and we can discuss this tomorrow with Jesse Temple. Jesse normally does Bill's show on Thursday. He does this show on Wednesday, although last week we took the week off. He's going to join me on Bill's show tomorrow, and I'll replay that tomorrow night. Badgers lost out on a recruit today. King Liggins, defensive lineman from the greater Chicago area, commits to Illinois over Wisconsin. And I read from the book of Kenny over at the Badgers Wire, Ben Kenny. In a vacuum, Wisconsin saw one of its high-priority targets commit to a Big Ten rival. Not only that, but he chose a neighboring program that is currently led by one of the program's former coaches, Brett Bielema. That program, Illinois, is projected to continue its historic run in 2025. The team returns most of its production from a 2024 group that finished a program best 10-3. It is set to face the easiest schedule in the conference. Bielema has done well in capitalizing on that on-field momentum on the recruiting trail. Wisconsin, on the other hand, is looking for a bounce-back campaign after a disappointing 5-7 finish. It's also in search of much-needed momentum on the class of 2026 recruiting trail. I appreciate the work of Ben Kenny. We'll talk about this with Jesse tomorrow. It's a player you would like to have. Illinois is beefing up on the D-line, including some former Badger transfers and now a top priority recruit for the Badgers. Illinois and Wisconsin were his final 2 choices. So I was watching that. I think I mentioned something like last night because I saw some tweets about him. Like, wait, I thought he wasn't committing until tomorrow. And he chose Bielema in Illinois, which is kind of where that felt like it was going anyways. If you have thoughts on the Brewers, Pat Murphy bullpen usage, that's top of mind for me. And it came to a head after McGill goes 3 times in 4 days. Nick Mears goes 3 times in 4 days. Payamps is not only pitching a lot, but being used in weird ways. They didn't use Grant Anderson for length. They only use him for 2 outs. They don't use Easton McGee. And then in a tie game in the 11th today, when they really would like to have this game, keep the win streak going, they have to throw Tyler Alexander, who got shelled because not only is Tyler Alexander not great, but he's pitched a ton. And I can give you a detail here. I'm just scrolling. Here it is. Tyler Alexander, 33 pitches for 5 outs yesterday and 84 pitches total on the homestand. He gives up single 3-run home run. Game over. It's not Tyler Alexander's fault. Murphy's got to get a clue and be smarter about managing this thing. So we can talk about that, and we can talk about the Tush push as well. Everything on the table. Let's take some calls. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? Hello? I was excited. I really got all of my talking points out leading into that call. Call back if for whatever reason you were disconnected or something. Wednesdays on the Wisco Sports Show. You know this, brought to you by La Crosse Beer House, the corner of 3rd and Pearl in downtown La Crosse. And it's the best spot. Graduation was last weekend. If you're going there, I know Bill and I are going to be there for a Loggers game here in just a couple of weeks. If you're going into town, maybe to do some Northwoods League this summer, maybe be by the river, go by the bluffs. Well, if you live in La Crosse, you know all about it. It's a great spot to hang out downtown, especially like after work for a happy hour. I loved going down there because I work 2 blocks away. You walk up the hill, the big garage doors are open, the breeze is coming through. You can get a brat, nice German pretzel, big mug of German beer. Great spot, great ambience. And La Crosse Beer House, always willing and will down there, always willing to team up with the show anytime we want to do something, go to spring training, go to the Super Bowl. They may or may not be sponsoring a second Packers Insider on the show this season coming up in a few months. So we'll have Mike Clemens and somebody else courtesy of La Crosse Beer House. So we'll talk more about that when the season gets closer, but very appreciative of La Crosse Beer House. So please support them if you're a listener, WKTY in La Crosse, or if you go there for whatever reason to visit State Track coming up in a few weeks, one of my favorite events. Go down and have a beer after a long day in the sun of watching the kiddos run in circles and jump over sand pits and bars and vault over things and throw heavy objects long distances. Twitter at Wisco Grant. You can call and text, like I said, 608-321-1670. So I'm frustrated with Pat Murphy, and I'll give you the opening stanza of his presser today. This is Kurt Hogue asking him about, yeah, it hurts. You used your entire bullpen today after using also your entire bullpen the last couple of nights only to lose.
Considering the state of the bullpen going into that, to lose and have to use all those guys, is that kind of a worst case for a 1-game loss?
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts, but every team gets in this situation. Not every team has as many guys out as we have, but you're going to get in these situations because in baseball today that, the bullpens are getting used, and it's very rare. Pitchers are going 7 and 8, and that really helps your team overall when that happens because you save your pen. But, these, again, you get 7 hits in a game and the opponents get 14, you usually don't win the game. But
correct. That doesn't preclude you from managing a bullpen better. You know what I mean? Let's keep our eye on the ball here. We didn't ask about the offense. We didn't ask about Churio's struggles. Those are very real. And there's an injury or two. All of that is completely and totally disconnected from the choices you make to manage the bullpen.
We had a chance to win, and there was a lot of good things today. There's a lot of good fact that we scored in the 9th and the 10th. Showed a little bit of character for this team. I think there was a lot of positives today. And we made some mistakes. And our bullpen battled. I mean, we put us in a position, McGill put us in a position to win, and, we didn't do it. And to have to use Todd, I don't know how much the guy's pitched. He's pitched a whole lot. So that was tough.
So my frustration is not necessarily with the Brewers losing today. They just won 3 in a row. And if they take a couple games from the series of the Pirates this weekend, I think this team overall is trending in the right direction because seen some nice progress with Contreras. Hoskins is continuing to hit. Churio's bats come alive a little bit, but now his defense, he just seems as lost as ever in center field. And that might have cost him a run or two today. And this team cannot afford to bleed runs defensively, which is funny. Murphy's like, well, we're making mistakes defensively. Well, your personnel got worse at third base, worse at shortstop, worse at center, worse at left. You're playing Jake Bauers out there. Of course your defense is suffering. Don't just chalk that up to mental errors. The personnel got worse. Ortiz was good at third. You moved him to short. You got worse. Caleb Durbin is not a defensive ace. He's your everyday third baseman now. Churio is not a center fielder at the major league level yet, and you're playing a first baseman in left field. Your defense is struggling. Obviously. So that's costing you runs. But that's disconnected, as is the offense, from the way that the bullpen is being managed. And back at 4 o'clock, sorry if I'm being redundant if you're here at 4 o'clock, but I like to reset the show a little bit now, number 2. This reminds me a lot of calls that I hear when I listen to the Dave Ramsey show. I listen a good amount. I drive a lot. And as I don't like to comment on the state of the industry in the state of Wisconsin, I don't find there to be a ton of compelling Wisconsin sports talk radio options. I listen to Ebo on my drive in. I take part in Bill's show. Other than that, it's not great. See a different clip from ESPN Milwaukee every single day where I'm like, what is going on over there? Steve Homer True, they post a breakout clip today of him yelling about how they should trade Churio because he doesn't walk enough and they pay him too much. It's brother. I'll complain about Churio, but probably shouldn't trade him. Like, there's not a lot of great Wisconsin sports talk options. So I listen to the Ramsey Show. Very compelling. And if you've never heard the show, he gives financial advice, life advice surrounding money. People call in, they have issues with money. And a lot of times how the calls will go is they're like, hi, Dave, how are you? And then he'll better than I deserve. And then they'll say, well, Dave, I'm $200,000 in debt. And he'll go, okay. And then he'll ask some questions. And then we kind of peel back some layers and we see how this mountain of debt has come to be. And it's not normally that someone goes out and takes out a $200,000 loan or goes out and buys a $200,000 car or a $200,000 RV. It's never all in one lump sum. It's like, well, we were struggling with credit cards. So then we opened another credit card. And then we were struggling with that card. And then our car broke down. So we had to buy a new car because we didn't want to pay to maintain the car. So now we have a car payment and, we're getting behind on our mortgage. So we rolled all of our debt together into a HELOC or whatever. And then that's become an issue. So now we're having issues with the house. It's like, whoa. So it was one thing after another. And that's how we end up where we end up. Today, the Brewers ended up in a place in the 11th inning where Tyler Alexander is pitching. It's an emergency. Tyler Alexander had to pitch. It's not an emergency. It's a situation that was created after a series of bad decisions, immature pitching decisions. Murphy choosing to use Trevor McGill 3 times in 4 days, or Nick Mears 3 times in 4 days and like 21 times in the 40 times he's been active, 21 games in the 40 games he's been active. And you're asking him to get 6 out last night? Are you on acid? What? Pyamps last night for 1 batter, the other night for 1 batter, but then they roll it over. Like, what is going on? So to say, well, we had to use Tyler Alexander today, it was an emergency. You had to use Tyler Alexander, but it wasn't an emergency. An emergency is half of your bullpen guys get food poisoning from the Gatorade and are stuck on the can. That's an emergency. This today was a situation that was created because of a series of immature or not well thought out decisions that are slowly but surely running your bullpen into the ground. And you could say, well, the offense isn't good. That's separate. Well, we have an injury. I don't care. Easton McGee's up here. You got to make use of him. And you got to make better use of Grant Anderson. Using him to only get 2 outs is inexcusable. Can't work. Or use Pyamps out for the final out of the 8th. Use him in the 9th. And then if you get to extras and you want to use McGill or you want to let it rip with McGill, fine. Or if you fall behind, then you can use Tyler Alexander. What's the difference anyways? You could use Jake Bowers, but you would pull him from the game to put in a defensive replacement because apparently Yelich is incapable of ever playing the outfield. So you got to use him as a designated hitter, despite the fact that he sucks and blows as a hitter. So no, it's not an emergency. It's a series of decisions that has led you to a very tough place to the point where now tomorrow, you don't even know who you can start because you don't know who will be available. I think the Brewers are probably deep down secretly hoping that the game will get rained out tomorrow, which, hey, I'm fine. Who among us hasn't been behind on homework and hoped for a snow day? Although now it's probably not how it works because these kids probably do virtual learning days. But you get my point. 608-321-1670. If you have Brewers thoughts, I'll take them. Otherwise, the Tush Push and Badger recruiting, everything on the table. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Clemens, Mike.
Hey, Clemhead. What's going on today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm better than I deserve, Mike. I'm doing good.
It's been a long day for you, so you're still going strong.
Well, the nice thing is the Brewers played a very interesting and entertaining game. I was prepared on tonight's show to replay an interview or two from Bill's show, but we got Mike coming up, and I got a lot of things to say about the Brewers. So, no, it's a great job. It's a lot of time on the radio, but I'm not out, breaking my back pouring concrete or anything. This is fun.
I respect Mike Clemens so much that I had my name legally changed to Clemhead.
Clemhead Mike. You're a leader of Clemhead. No, I'm excited. Mike texted me this afternoon. He's like, hey, can I come on and talk about the Tush Push? I'm like, Mike, always, just call. Don't even ask. Just call.
Yeah. As far as the Brewers go, I'm with you, Grant. I'm a little pissed off about how Murphy's running the pitchers. He's taken out the starters. Well, he took out the starter today at 4 2/3 innings. And he's done that so many times this year. And then you got all these, like you said, overworked relief pitchers trying to fill in. I think he needs to leave his starters in a little longer. I know guys were saying that today on the live stream too. It's like you got to leave your starters in a little bit. You got to trust them somewhat. I mean,
if Mike, here's the thing: if it's a starter or a middle, you got to trust somebody more. So if that's a matter of trusting your starter for an extra inning or trusting Easton McGee or Grant Anderson for an extra inning, you got whoever. Take your pick. Like their starters have not been going 3 innings. They've gotten pretty decent length out of their starters the last couple of weeks. So if it's trusting your starter for another inning or trusting a reliever who's not one of your leverage guys, fine. But you need to trust somebody to work a little bit more. To your point, exactly. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and you're right. Some of these guys are overworked right now, and he does have other guys he can use. I mean, use them. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're on the major league roster for a reason.
Got to use them. They can't just sit there. They can't just be a decoration out in the bullpen. Can't be how it works.
Yeah, you might have to have a bullpen day next game and just pitch each guy like 1 or 2 innings, and just the guys that never get to pitch, and
just a leftovers type meal. Yeah.
Yeah. Accept the loss and just move on, because you got to get your guys rested up, your good pitchers rested. So just throw your your scrubs in there and let them pitch a game and just take it like a man.
Yeah. Elvin Rodriguez tomorrow, or Carlos Rodriguez. It's supposed to be Carlos Rodriguez. Clemhead, that's a good call. Appreciate it. You got to trust somebody. Now, I don't think, like last night, I didn't have a problem pulling Henderson after 7 strikeouts, 90 pitches. Like that's a great start. I will take it. You know what I mean? I think I'll take 4 2/3 from Chad Patrick too. I think I'll also take that. But you got to trust somebody. You got to trust a starter to try to get you an extra inning. I would rather trust a reliever that's fresh to cover an inning in the 6th or the 7th rather than trusting a starter who's fatigued. Like that would be my school of thought. But if your starter's at 85 pitches, like you might need to let him go out there to try to get you a couple more. But you got to trust somebody. You got to expand the circle of trust. One more call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Yeah, it's Darnell.
Hey, Darnell. What's up?
Hey, listen, they have, I believe, 7 straight games before their next break. I don't think that they have an off day until next Thursday.
I believe you are correct, but I will confirm that. Keep talking.
They are in a world of hurt when it comes to their high leverage arms and the usage right now. Like it's kind of scary. Like they were kind of going through that a little bit in the broadcast today. They're just saying like, hey, this is Mears, what was it, 21st appearance already, and it's
40
not
active
June
games.
Yet. That's scary. He's our best pitcher, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just is probably best stuff. Him and Abner, and both those guys have been great this year thus far, but are relied upon for so many innings that they're not even. Forget the stretch run in August, September. Like they're going to be burned out in July.
Yeah.
So yeah, that scares me. The other thing that scares me is just like you were saying, that the usage, situational things. It doesn't make any sense. If some of Council's decision making didn't make sense, then that's tame compared to what we're witnessing right now.
Here's the thing. Council's decision-making made sense. We just didn't always like it. You know what I mean? When they're down a run and he throws a pitcher in who we don't think is very good, I understand why he's doing it, even if I don't like it. But guess what? We're fans. Darnell, I don't know if you've ever heard this. Fan is short for fanatic. So obviously I'm going to want to use the best pitcher all the time, but the manager has to be the voice of reason to say, no, we can't do that tonight. And Council was always capable of being that guy. I don't know if Murphy has it in him.
Is he scared to lose? Because it's kind of hard to see, like, the high leverage guys are the guys that we know are good go in there and give up bombs because they're overworked. Like Alexander put high cheese like right down the middle. Most big league hitters, sorry, Brewers excluded, but most big league hitters will put that over the fence.
Yeah.
Right. If you miss a pitch, you're going to pay for it. And that's what we're watching is like last night we watched Mears give up a 3-run shot because he's overworked and because he put 95 right down the middle. Right. I'm a little bit worried as we move forward here, just because they've had very winnable games and the games aren't being won that should be won. And they're tiring out their only strength, which is their bullpen.
Yeah.
They sucked. Man, they could have gotten their first sweep of the year, too.
They could have, but let's be real. I'm not really mad that they lost the game today. I'm annoyed, but I still think the last week has been good for that. Well, I won't say week because the weekend was a nightmare, but the last 3 days have been good, and they could build on this. And it's not just the wins. Darnell, that's a good call. It's Contreras, Churio, a little sign of life here and there. Not in the field. That's gone in the tank now, too. Great. But like It's not the loss. It's that they're like really, really backing themselves into a tough spot. Now they don't have an off day until next Thursday. And on the broadcast, I was be like, well, we got 9 games in 9 days. That's the schedule. Council was, oh my God, that drove me up a tree when Council would do that. Like, well, we got like he had that thing memorized. Like he knew when the next off day was. And most managers should. That's knowledge you should have. But he's like, every post-game presser was like, yeah, 9 days, 9 games in 9 days. Well, now we got 28 games in 30 days. It's like, hey man, you just need an off day? Just pretend to be sick or something. Like, and I think that would I think that would roll over into his club. Murphy is win tonight guy. But you can't always be win tonight because it's going to hurt your ability down the stretch. So we didn't always like it with Council, but I always understood what he was doing. But fans, we don't often like it because fan is short for fanatic. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that before. 3 minutes, we'll come back. Couple more thoughts on this, couple final thoughts on the Tush Push. I'll give you some of the latest reporting out of the league meetings up in Minneapolis. And then Mike Clemens, how lucky are we? He's going to join us at 5:35.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Appreciate you being here. Mike Clemens going to be here in about 10 minutes. Who wants to talk Tush Push? Some of the reporting today was pretty interesting about the Tush Push. I'm ready to kind of be done talking about this stupid thing. Despite what many people would tell you online, the Packers did not lose that game in the playoffs to the Eagles because of the Tush Push. They lost that game because their wide receivers weren't very good. Their pass rush couldn't get home. Jordan Love wasn't very good. Special teams was a clown car, and Keyshawn Nixon coughed up the opening kickoff. Need I continue? I could continue. Tush Push wasn't at the top of that list. I want to get rid of it because it pisses me off to watch. It's a crummy television product. And I, the fan, should be a bit of a priority. You, as a fan, should be a priority. I don't want to be force-fed crummy TV. No, of course not. That's why the NBA is like, man, we gotta deal with like all these teams who are ripping like 63s a game. It's not a good television product. I'm a fan. I want the television product and the sport that I invest in and consume to be the best possible version. And when I say I'm a fan of the NFL. To be accurate, I am an owner of the Green Bay Packers. Some reporting from Florio today. When Lions president Rod Wood blurted out that the league officials nudged the Lions to propose a new seating system, it opened a new avenue for understanding how the rulemaking sausage gets made. And we suggested at the time that 345 Park Avenue possibly put the Packers up to proposing a tush push ban too. Per a league source, that's exactly what happened. The league asked the Packers to do it, and the Packers took one for the team. As the source put it, most in the Green Bay organization didn't really care about the play either way. It never made sense for the Packers to be the anti-tush push poster child. They lost to the Eagles twice last year. A proposal coming from Green Bay reeks of sour grapes. I don't really care about that. Florio writes, well, they should have had the Bills do it or something. Like, 3/4 of the league, it was very close to getting voted out. It was 22-10. So it's 2 votes away from being the requisite 3/4, but way more than half. Like, most of the league wants to get rid of this thing. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm not worried about optics. And I know for sure that the Packers aren't either. Are you kidding me? Of course, the initial version of the proposed banned an immediate push of the player receiving the snap. The Bills don't run it that way. When the proposal shifted to a version that banned all pushing, the Bills may have felt differently. Regardless, the Packers were the ones the league office targeted, and the Packers are the ones that will carry the public embarrassment of the proposal going to a vote instead of being withdrawn and failing. I don't understand why those two things would be any different. The truth is, it's not on the Packers. The league wanted to get rid of the play. For whatever reason, the league decided not to propose the measure through normal procedure, but to create the impression that one specific team decided to push for no tush push. Well done, Florio. We also learned today, and this blows my skull, that Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie spent the better part of an hour making a final impression on the NFL owners before they voted. As he attempted to make his point, per The Athletic, he was emotional, passionate, and at one point crude. He told the other owners that the fact that his team came up with a play so unstoppable that the rest of the league had no choice than to try to ban it was like, quote, a wet dream for a teenage boy. Hey, you know who looks stupid in this? The Packers. Not the old creep who's a Nepo baby who was given money to own a sports team. And I'm not assuming that. That is Jeffrey Lurie's background. That is how he came to own a team. Because, as I told you, I do occasionally listen to Dave Ramsey, and most millionaires in this country, in fact, a vast majority of them, are not self-made. Billionaires, that's different. People like Jeffrey Lurie, that's different. Imagine getting in front of a bunch of your peers and being like, please don't ban it. It's like having a wet dream. Mark Murphy was in the back like, this popcorn's got anyone got more popcorn? Where are the little sandwiches with the toothpicks? They don't care. Jared and DeForest, a text on baseball, says low run production is a key contributor too. Every inning is high leverage because we can't reliably put runs on the board. That's fair. As soon as the starter gets in a bind in the 5th, Murphy makes a decision based on the desire to keep a small lead or to keep it within reach. The same can be said in every inning thereafter. Good word usage of the word thereafter. I completely and totally agree. The problem is Murphy's got to get over that because he can't grind his bullpen down to a nub just because, well, the offense sucks. Okay, well, those are two separate things. You know what I mean? And grinding your bullpen down is only going to make matters worse. So you got to figure out a way to trust some of these other guys or get more from your starters or something. I don't know what, but I don't think length from the starters has been a problem. Chad Patrick was pretty good today. Henderson was excellent the other night. Freddie Peralta was very solid on Sunday, I believe, when I listened. Like, they got length. The starting length has not been 7 innings a night, but come on, folks. Don't let Murph off the hook for that one. Mike Clemens going to join us coming up next. Very excited to chat with this fella. He's going to talk Packers and the tush push and everything else going on up in Green Bay. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. We really haven't had very many discussions about it. I'm sure we will over the next few weeks as we head into the owners' meetings. But so I'm aware that we did, but really haven't had many discussions about it. I know we're not very successful against it. I know that. But to be honest with you, I have not put much thought into it. It's been around for a while. We've used it in different fashions with our tight end. Again, I think there'll be a lot of discussions about it. I got to kind of look at some of the information as far as injury rates, things like that to see. But we'll see.
I played that earlier in the show, but that's Brian Gutekunst from February at the Combine. Asked about the tush push, and at no point when LaFleur or Goody or Mark Murphy have been asked about this, none of them have really pounded the table. They've said, well, yeah, kind of hemming and hawing. And then we learned some details today that, yeah, this is actually kind of motivated by the league. So here to talk about this and whatever else is going on up there in Green Bay, 1265 Lombardi, and anything related to the Packers around the NFL world, Mike Clemens is joining us now, thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay. Mike, it's nice to have you back. How you been?
Good, Grant. How are you?
I am excellent.
When I'm on your show, I try not to speculate. And, I often play like a lot of audio clips because it's like, I'm not saying this stuff. The player is saying this.
I like that.
The coach is saying this stuff. And then let the listeners decide. By the way, you had some excellent calls on the show yesterday. People, with really good perceptions of the things that they're reading, the quotes that they're reading, their interpretations of things like what's going on in the Packers wide receiver room right now in terms of salaries, what they paid Matthew Golden, and this tush push thing. So I will just tell you this to the listeners. I started saying about a month or two ago, I don't believe Matt LaFleur could give a rat's ass about the tush push play.
Yeah.
And here's what I know. They lose 22-10 to the Eagles. An emotional loss. They have their exit interviews. They disperse from Green Bay. Bill and I go and cover NFC Championship, and then we go to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and we move on. Okay, so then we get to Combine a few weeks later in Indianapolis, and there's this story that there's some growing sentiment that the tush push play could lead to a catastrophic injury. God forbid somebody suffers a broken neck in that pile up and that pushing, and that the Green Bay Packers are the ones that are behind this. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, it didn't make sense for you when you heard it at first, right?
Right. And you think of, that stadium was built on Bart Starr and the quarterback sneak in the Ice Bowl. And as a result of the tush push, Matt LaFleur, has said this since this period where he allegedly put together this proposal to kill the tush push, has said, hey, we even used it ourselves with Tucker Kraft. So it was a mixed signal. So all I know is this. That thing starts happening about the week we're in Indianapolis. And then we get to sit, closed door, about a dozen of us, with Brian Gutekunst say, so, you guys did you write this thing up? As a GM concerned about injuries? Yeah, it's like, okay, so it didn't come from Brian. It's like, well, I haven't even really read it yet.
Yeah, like if Goody was all in on it, or LaFleur, or one of the three spokespeople was, okay, so they're the one. But it's not like any of them really planted their flag, and it didn't seem that important to any of them.
No, again, Goody is quoted as saying, yeah, by the way, we're going to let our players now in 2028 play flag football a couple of weeks before training camp. That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
That says torn ACL all over it a month before the season, or, a knee injury of some kind. So, that sounds more regular or whatever. But the response as he was sitting down and pulling up some coffee and talking to us was, yeah. And okay. And then in the hallway, Mark was walking to one of the sessions, and somebody said, so, our Packers president, CEO, are you the one that has proposed this thing to the league that maybe they should ban the Philadelphia tush push? Wasn't me.
Yeah.
He giggles. Well, and then LaFleur? So then the next time we see Matt, he's like, yeah, well, it's kind of a rugby style play, and the league has some information. It could lead to a catastrophic injury. I haven't actually seen the details of that, but we just think that that we should go back to not allowing players that they push you from behind, and it's like I don't buy it. And then someone said, "Did you actually write this thing?" And he says, "No, we have people far smarter than me doing that."
We have people somewhere at 1260. Yeah, just copywriters working on this, that type of thing.
And that's when I told you and Bill Michaels, like, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
These guys sound like they're reading off a cue card. It doesn't sound like it's coming from the heart. And so the next time that they have some NFL meetings, and then these guys all take turns speaking, they're all reading off the same script. I mean, they're not actually reading off the script, but they've rehearsed.
The talking points. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the last NFL meetings, it comes up short. Today, they voted, and they needed 24 votes to ban the tush push in Philadelphia. That quarterback sneak where the Eagles have done such a great job with their technique and making it legal and lining up and getting that incredible low pad level and the leverage and the pushing from behind and all that stuff to get Jalen Hurts across the line for a yard or two. And by the way, if out of 31 teams to try and stop us, I think it would have been the Commanders right after that series
And
of
they
downs.
and they spoke out about it. Like Frankie Louvu had some comments. I don't remember on what show, if it was Kay Adams or Dan Patrick or whatever. But we've heard that from them in Drims and Drabs. I think a lot of teams, obviously, Mike, 22 teams, 21 of them, the Packers, were willing to vote against it. I just don't think anyone wanted to be the face of it.
A defensive-minded coach like Dan Quinn, former Seahawks defensive coordinator, head coach of the Falcons, Dan Quinn is one of Matt LaFleur's heroes. Matt was the quarterback coach when Matt Ryan and those guys almost beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So my point is, Dan Quinn and Matt LaFleur are the same kinds of guys. Let them play football. I don't care if it looks like rugby or whatever. And so that's where I've begun to understand, and this hit me more 10, 15 years ago. The league is full of lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Murphy is an attorney. I mean, after football, and he got his degree, he was an arbitrator, and then an attorney, and then he became an athletic director, and then the president of the Packers. His replacement, Ed Policy, lawyer. These guys all live on reading contracts, whether it's for players, whether it's for buildings on Titletown. Every decision they make, they get in writing.
Yep.
And so that sort of breeds at the NFL front office. And when you have a whole wing full of lawyers, anytime someone says, "Oh God, we've got a doctor who says there's a real high risk there that someone can break their neck in a tush push pileup," and then we could get sued for that. And the league that has already given away hundreds of millions after the concussion phase of about 10, 11 years ago, and it was sued for $4 billion, and now is under appeal with their Sunday Drive ticket and all that other stuff. People are coming after the league for anything that they can when it comes to lawsuits. And all of a sudden, and I just, in terms of the parliamentary procedures, if you will, or imaging, the league just says to the Packers, listen, we gave you guys a draft. Mark, you're on your way out. We need a team to sponsor this. You guys figure it out, but we want you to ban the tush push because, this could cost us. Or I've got some owners that are concerned about it. Could you help me out here?
I was wondering if that was part of it. Like, do you think that was the line? It's like, well, we gave you the draft because there had to be something like some favor. I'm sure that I wonder if that's where it started.
And I'll see to it that your home opener is finally, who knows?
Sure. Yeah.
That you finally get a home opener or you don't have to play on Christmas Day. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
But right up to there, that's all Mike Clemens speculation and stuff that I kind of hear about, things that I observe, but I admit speculation. And today, God bless Mike Florio. You're not going to hear me say that very often. The guy who started Pro Football Talk.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of things he's done that's been way wrong, and he's never apologized for it. But today he reported that there's another one of these proposals where they said, hey, maybe instead of going by exact records from the divisions, we have a seeding in terms of your win-loss record. In other words, like last year, Packers in their 11 wins, instead of being like the 7th seed, they could have been the 5th seed because they happened to be in a division with three powerful teams like the Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers,
Sure.
where they got knocked down. And they said that the Lions were behind that. That Dan Campbell, who he just won the division, that he's the one that pitched that. The Lions admitted to Mike Florio, yeah, maybe the league nudged us on that. Oh, and so then Florio went with the thing where he says, and I've also got that the same thing happened to the Packers with the tush push. The league did this. The league gave them the script. Here, you guys pitch this at the meeting. And there you go. Now, for whatever reason, the league is doing it that way. For imaging, they want to protect an owner that's got some more chips at the end of the table than the other guys. Who knows? Whatever the case, the damn thing didn't pass anyway. It came up short by 2 votes, and the Eagles and the Packers with Tucker Kraft can continue their tush push plays in the 2025 season.
Well, it's not what decided that playoff game. Everyone's like, well, they couldn't stop the Eagles. It's like, yeah, but they had like 5 or 6 issues bigger than the tush push in that game.
I just think all that stuff they're talking about, well, it looks more like a rugby play. No, it looks like a football play to me, man. Subjectively, it looks like a football play. And that's what that's peewee football. Line up, get your pads lower, and muscle your way in. So anyway, it's back in, and this charade has to end right now. But now LaFleur's going to get a bunch of questions like, so is it true that you were forced to talk about this?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what he has to say.
And probably a big part of why they never wanted to do this in the first place is because then they have to answer questions about it, right? They have to be the face of the thing.
Right. Just play for, at the end of the day, too, who cares what the owners think or the lawyers worrying about catastrophic injuries think or the doctors or whatever? The real question about this thing should be, what do the players think?
Yeah.
Right. What do the players think about it?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know how that would go if you were to poll every single player. I bet it would vary on which position, right? Defensive linemen are probably like, no, man, screw that. Like, I'm getting my spine pushed in every other play. And for what? Right? There's no workaround for us. Mike Clemens is here. Thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay on South Military Avenue. You can book baymotelgreenbay.com. The Favre doc was good, Mike. I don't know if someone like you would have learned any new earth-shattering information. I think it did a really good job explaining to some people outside of the NFL or outside of Green Bay fandom how Favre became such a figure in Wisconsin to the point where even when he does some things that aren't so great, right, the memories and the value that he brought to Green Bay and this fan base still kind of take precedent. I thought they did a really good job, and Bill did a really good job explaining it and illustrating it.
There were Hall of Famers named Paul Hornung and Max McGee who laughed and giggled about being out with the girls all night long the night before games, and Lombardi letting it slide. And guess what? Society has changed in a lot of ways from 1963, right? As a matter of fact, though, Paul Hornung had to sit out a year because he was gambling.
Yeah.
Because he was gambling. People forget about that. But later he came back in, and then he did his time. He finished as a football player, longtime broadcaster, legendary Packer, welcomed back year after year. Brett Favre is a football player, and that means that they play hard, they work hard, all that. And we knew all about that. And I talked about it on Bill's show. But there's people that say, oh, this Jen Sturger, she's just some, woman who wants to get into the media, wants attention, probably trying to get money out of it. And you learn that's not exactly the case. And you learn that the things that happen when Brett, and she's actually never talked to Brett, but she's just said, he's sending me these pictures, right?
Yeah.
And if Brett Favre had lived 10 years before they had cell phones with cameras in them, this may have never happened. But that's where he crossed the line. And you find out that she really had no intention of revealing this. She was working for a media operation when she happened to mention that. This guy, the editor of the website she was working for, Deadspin, exploited her story.
Yep.
Which ended her aspirations immediately ended her aspirations there of a media career. Those are some interesting parts of it. Brett has had plenty of time to sit down, come back on Bill's show, anybody's show or his own podcast, whatever, and address this, and he won't go there. And in terms of the Mississippi thing, I guess for legal matters, he's been told, don't go there. He testified before Congress. He put out his statement last year in September, but it would probably behoove him to sort of clear the air, and I think maybe things would be all forgiven. But it's not a liberal mainstream media hack job on a guy that
No.
happened to support a Republican candidate. Don't go, please don't get on that merry-go-round.
No.
It's just the fact of this is a part that we've known about, and it's just if someone doesn't feel that they've been victimized, it's just a little creepy. That's as far as I've gone. But I know specifically of an instance that happened just like that about 3 years before he went to the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're sitting at the bar and the woman who's on her way out of Green Bay after her time serving in the area as a part of the team, the organization, is saying, all right, goodbye, you guys. You've been great to work with. Oh, okay, great. And she goes, here, listen to this. And she plays you one of those voicemails from him.
Mm-hmm.
And then this happens 2 years later in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and you find out about it a year after that. It's like, oh, okay.
So
same old gunslinger.
I had heard a story similar to that, and we'll have to talk about it off air sometime because I think Bill was the one to tell me about it. But it struck me. I wonder, Mike, if Jen Sturger had been working for an organization that wasn't the Jets. I do wonder because I think the Jets look horrible in all of this too.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
Then the Jets, with the way that they've handled their franchise the last couple of years and fired the coaches, and the Rodgers experiment doesn't work out and all that, they're a mess. And now it's even worse for them right now. That happened on their time. Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. And there wasn't a support system. And maybe she didn't tell anyone. You know what I mean? Like maybe she just kept it to herself, and that would be completely understandable too. We'll have to pick this up some other time. Is there any chance today's Wednesday? Well, you're welcome. I'm in for Bill the rest of the week. You're welcome anytime tomorrow or anytime Friday. If you want to circle back and talk about anything else, I'm just about out of time, so I got to run. But Mike, thank you for this, and I do want to talk more about this Favre thing with you. I'm just out of time.
And again, great listeners or great calls today and yesterday's show as well. Because I think people, I think your listeners have got some great perspectives on all this stuff as well too. Take care, pal.
Yeah, you as well. Usually better perspective than me. That's Mike Clemens. Thanks to the Bay Motel in Green Bay. Quiet, cozy, comfortable, just a mile from Lambeau Field. You can reserve your room or call them with any questions that you have. BayMotelGreenBay.com. All right, let's take our final break of the show. We'll come back, wrap things up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels here. Are your two wheels revved up? Because here it comes. The Big River Rally where the river meets the road. It rolls into La Crosse on June 27th and 28th. Join us for a weekend packed with action. Stunt shows, a killer bike show, food trucks, all kinds of awesome vendors. Friday, Rod's River Run with Texas Hippie Coalition lighting up the stage that night. Then Saturday, it's the Big River Rally Ride. Miles and miles of pure freedom. Then Saturday night, Drowning Pool rocks the house. Grab your tickets right now. BigRiverRally.com, and I'll see you there.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Last couple minutes. Rick and Clemhead and Rob Dog, appreciate you guys hanging out over on the live stream. Tyler in Massachusetts as well. Big night in our household. Survivor finale tonight. It's time for the season to be done. These cats just didn't want to make any big moves. I, for the most part, liked just about everyone on the season. I just wish they would have swung a little bit bigger. A lot of Sal Frelick and Caleb Durbin style type moves. Need a little bit more. Chuck in on Alaska texts in and says, if Florio has been wrong on other things, as Clemens says, maybe he is wrong about this. Now, I don't know. I don't know what Clemens is driving at. He said, well, you know, Florio's been wrong about a bunch of stuff. I don't know to what he is referring. But the NFL trying to play puppet master behind the scenes is like Florio's North Star, man. That's his whole purpose for being alive, is the NFL's getting away with this. Whereas most people would be like, okay, the NFL wants this to pass. They, ask for a team to help them out. But with Florio, it's like, fans need to know about this. They can't get away with this. It's like, well, even if they get away with it, that means 3/4 of the team in the NFL agree. It's like, where's the crime? Or who's the victim, I guess, is the better question. You know what I mean? But this is Florio's wheelhouse. A lot of people don't like Florio because they're like, wow, he's got this anti-Aaron Rodgers axe to grind. Okay, well, if you could set that to the side, Florio's pretty well connected. He's been doing this a long time. So I don't look at Florio. A lot of people today were like, Diana Rossini really missed on the tush push. When her reporting was, there's a good chance this passes and the Eagles are nervous. Well, it almost passed. And then we learned that Jeffrey Lurie spent an hour in tears talking about, completing in bed as a young boy. Like, yeah, no wonder they were nervous. So like, we're always so quick to be like, well, that insider was wrong. Were they? Or do you just got to say that because, you with the 82 Twitter followers wants to feel smarter than someone with 500,000 or 1 million? Yeah, missed on that report. I don't know. Did they? Feels like Rossini was pretty dead on. It almost passed. And the Eagles were nervous because it almost passed. I don't know. We'll calm down. Tonight, another NBA game, Pacers-Knicks. I'm excited to watch that. Little Survivor as well. Tomorrow, if you are interested in 4 more hours of this, Austin and I will be in for Bill, and I will be at Bill's house on Friday. So 6 hours tomorrow, 6 hours Friday. So if you like my show, this is your week. Thanks for listening. Podcast will go up in just a couple minutes.